Okay, so in this first game, we're going to start off over here. This comes out of the French defense. My opponent's 1900 and change, and he goes ahead and takes my knight. It isn't great, and that's because what happens is I take back, and it brings his knight towards the center, which looks okay, but he's really not threatening anything, right? And so he has pretty much two pieces in the game, if you think about it. Or three, but these ones really aren't doing much. Like, they're really not going anywhere, right? So they're kind of like, they're sort of in the game, sort of developed, but not really. So I have a lead on development, right? So I just move my bishop out of the way because I want to preserve my bishops. I want to have the two bishops, and he also has the two bishops, so I don't want to forfeit that over to him. Okay, so in this position, here's where he made the crucial mistake. He played knight f4. Now, knight f4, again, if it looks good, if you're an experienced chess player, a lot of players are going to play knight f4. Why? Because it wins one of the bishops, because my queen's attacked and my bishop's attacked. Obviously, I have to save my queen, or else I shouldn't be playing chess. And then after I move my queen, he's going to take my bishop. The problem is, this was one of his pieces that were developed, one of the only pieces that were developed. He's going to get rid of that, and in the time it takes him to get this bishop, my queen and rook are going to come into the game. So I move my queen away and put pressure on the attack the g-pawn. He takes with check, so I can't throw in an intermediate move, right? Zuchen Zwang. So, okay, how do we take here? Again, this is positional chess. This is not so much tactics. We're not going to take with the pawn. We're going to bust open our king side. But more importantly, this lifts the rook. This is a rook lift. And now the queen is in the game and the rook is in the game. And one of his pieces, again, that was developed is not in the game. So now I have four pieces in the game, and he has two, if you even want to consider these guys in the game. Now, here he's got to just, he's already in a bad position. It's not great. But here he castles, and he castles right in because I was attacking the G7 pawn. He figured he'll develop and castle. That's a good strategic move, but it's a strategic blunder, and now it's really over. It's absolutely over. White is crushing black in this position. There's a couple of ways I can go here. I played this first. Now, this isn't the best. Actually, this is just better right away, and he can't take, and if he takes like this, I just take and have a winning attack. But I played this, and then it's also winning. Okay, so black stops my attack. I come in here, check. He takes, I take, and now he's stopping the bishop from defending this. So I just move the queen away and just go ahead and give him the bishop, which wasn't the best. But the point is, he got himself in a really bad strategic positional spot in this game where he was just defending off his back and just had a worse position. And I didn't even play the best moves following up. I think I was in time pressure over here. But anyway, I just snuck my queen in basically and just waited for a chance for a tactic to form. When you have a better position in chess, tactics are going to form. And here, this is the tactic. Again, this video is not so much about tactics. I already went over that with the road to 1800 Elo. This is more about positional chess. So if you're already 1800, 1900, your tactics should be sharp. You should be able to spot tactics like this and finish the game. But the whole purpose of this video is to get to the point where the tactics work for you on the chessboard. And here I just take and I force checkmate. But it all came down to him activating my pieces for me, essentially. So let's go on to the next game. The next game we have here. Okay, so my opponent looks like he's doing good, and he's doing pretty good so far. So he expanded on the king side. This is always the king side, by the way, even though the king's on this side of the board. This is still the queen side. This is still the king side. So he expanded on the king side, and he didn't castle king side. So that's good. That would be a big positional blunder if he did that. So he didn't do that. That's good. And he's 1900, so he's a strong player. I don't expect him to do that. But here's where he made the positional blunder. So I played f4 here. Now, he should have taken, okay, because you don't want me to keep on encroaching on your position. And then when I take back, if he's worried about this pin, he can just move out of the way, and he's completely fine. There's literally, the game's pretty much even. Black's slightly better, whatever. So after f4, my opponent didn't take, moved the rook over to what he thought was going to be an open file at some point, which it does open up. But it misses the point because I play f3 myself. Now, f3 is pretty much killing the bishop, but the bishop does go to another diagonal. The bishop goes to this diagonal. Okay, that's good, but these pawns are I'm still crushing white's position here. I have much more space. I have a big spatial advantage, and I have a better game. And from here, I just break open the center even more. And after a series of trades, okay, now we have an open G file, right? So I don't want him to pile up his rooks on an open G file and take control of the game. Okay, I attack his rook first. His rook moves away, and then I challenge the G file. And here he made another mistake. Not yet at this point, but he soon will. He took, and I attacked his rook with my queen. Now, why did I do that? Because I don't want him, again, to pile up and win the G file. I'm challenging the G file. My plan was he moves his rook back, and then I challenge this. Again, he's not going to take here. He shouldn't, because that relinquishes the control of the G file to me. So what he should have done here, what I was planning on him doing, was playing queen d1, and then I would just sink my rook in here. And I can sink my rook in there again, because I have this pawn here. I have a spatial advantage. And if he takes, this is going to be game over because I have a passed pawn. However, my opponent, after I played queen f7, he sacrificed the rook for some reason. I'm not sure why. Again, probably just because he didn't know how to deal with all this. And I took over the G file. Again, I'm just calmly playing the best positional ideas. He comes in with his knight. Okay, I move my bishop away. Comes in with his queen. What is he threatening? Checkmate. Again, this is beneath this video at this point. We're going over positional chess. We're not looking at one move attacks. We should see this stuff already. But I defend it. Okay, he comes in here. This is a tactic, and this breaks open my center, which is good. And I can't take back because I'll lose my queen. So that was a good tactic. But the thing is here is I just have to pretty much defend my queen. Then I can take the knight. So I throw in a check first, and then I move my queen to e6. Now this just defends the queen. The bishop defends the queen, so now this is a threat. Now I can take the knight, and he can't take, well, he can, but he'll just be losing a piece. Okay, so now he goes back, and again, because of my position, because I had more space than him, the tactics work in my favor, and if you're above 1800, you should be able to spot these tactics. If you're below 1800 and you're watching this video, you can get a lot from this video. But if you're 1800 and you want to get to 2000, you should be able to spot tactics like this at this point. The purpose, again, of this video is how I got to the point where the tactics work in my favor. And this is just a simple tactic. It's a rook sack. And after he takes back, I have a passed pawn. It's extremely powerful. He tries to stop it, and I just defend the pawn. And I have to defend this because that's a dangerous pawn to let go. So I just bring the queen back here. And now the queen's trying to cut the pawn off, and I just take this pawn with the bishop and control f1 again, and my opponent had to resign. Again, so giving your opponent a spatial advantage, letting them kind of bulldozer over you, not a good idea. Okay, so in this game, let's just speed up a couple moves here. Okay, so far, both players are playing well here. Okay, so you'll see that my opponent elected to go queenside, and my king's on the king side. So when kings have their opposite side castling of each other, the basic strategy is to push the pawns and break open the fortress. So his strategy is very good. So that part's good. Here's where he goes astray. Now, again, when kings are castled on the opposite sides of the board from each other, the attack and the speed of attack is crucial because a lot of times you can't stop your opponent. The best defense is a good offense. So if you're able to set up a blockade, you're going to win the game. If I set up a blockade and my opponent can't attack me and I'm just launching pawns at him and opening up his king side, it's just a matter of time before I win. I'm just going to be teeing off on him. So you can't allow blockades. In fact, you want to sack your pawns, actually, so you can open up the H file and G file and things like that. But you definitely do not want to allow a blockade. And my opponent in this game allowed a blockade. He pushed this pawn, and I just came here with my knight to h4, and now my knight just stays there, and he really can't do anything about it. He would like to get the bishop here. That's the only thing he can do and take that knight, but it's going to take a lot of time to do that, and my attack's already coming. Okay, now notice that I don't do the same mistake. A big mistake here would be if I played b5, and then he comes in here and he blockades me. I don't want that either. So for that reason, I push this pawn first, and then when the bishop comes to d6, now I push, and now there's no knight here, obviously, because we'll just take his knight. So now the knight's getting pushed around, and then I have just a very powerful attack, and I rip open the position, and at this point, you'll see my opponent, he has good tactics, he's a strong player, but he's already in a worse position. So I mean, if I take the knight here, let's say I take the knight. We have queen takes f4, and I'm not stopping checkmate. So I can't take the knight. No problem. I don't have to. I just bring my knight in. Again, increase my position, develop my piece, attack the queen, have a centralized knight here. He throws in a Zhuchenzhuang. Okay. I can't take the queen now because I'm pinned. Again, no problem. I just block the pin. He takes. I take with the bishop. Again, putting the pressure back on him. And not taking back with the knight because the knight's job is to blockade because I don't want this pawn rushing forward and ripping open my king side. Okay, so the queen comes to c6, putting more pressure on this diagonal. And I just, again, put my rook on an open file, aimed at his king. And now I just attack his rook. And this is just, tactically he could take on f6, but he didn't. I just took back. He came knight g5. And here I just, clean up the game because I have a better position. And at this point, there's really not much he can do. His queen's like right in front of his king, which is open on an open file. His bishop's in front of his queen. So again, just rook c1, cleaning up the game. He can't move his bishop or he'll lose his queen. So he brings the knight in, tries for tricks. I just take the knight, just nothing he can do. And after this, it looks scary, but I'm totally fine. And I just won the game. Again, so when you have kings on opposite sides of the board, castled from each other, you want to launch the pawns. Strong players like this know that, but you have to watch out for blockades. That's a big thing a lot of players miss at the 1800, 1900 level, even 2000 level. So we have to really watch out for that. If you want to get better, that is. If you don't want to get better, don't watch out for that, please. Especially if you're playing against me. Don't watch out for that. Okay, so in this game, I'm playing the Sicilian defense. Okay, and again, not much to see here right now. Okay, my opponent plays g4. Now, again, this is a strategic error because you don't want to push pawns in front of your king. Now, that's kind of like rudimentary for a player at this level. He's about 2,000. Of course, he knows that. He just kind of thought he could get away with it in this position. But I'm going to show you why. There's a couple of things that he does wrong here, and I'm going to show you why you don't do that. Okay, he brings his knight in here, which I was surprised he did because his knight cannot go anywhere. Like, you don't want to move your knight forward or a piece forward if you have to move it back the next move. Like, if I go to kick it out and he can move forward again, that's fine, but he can't in this position. So you don't want to make those one move, lunge forward with no backup. Okay, so now I'm just opening up. Again, this is a positional move. I'm opening up this diagonal to the king. I have a dark square bishop. The dark diagonal is open. His king is loose because he played g4 and f4. So, okay, I'm just preparing. I take the knight, throw in the check. Okay, so now I'm taking over this diagonal with tempo. The king moves away. And now what do? I want this light square bishop on this diagonal. And then with this bishop and this bishop on these two open diagonals, I'm just going to have a winning position. First, I bring my queen into the game. He tries to hold the defenses with the rook. I attack the rook. He moves it away. I bring in my knight. So I'm bringing more pieces into the attack. And also, when I bring in the knight, notice what I said before. This actually is twofold. It centralizes my knight. It brings it into the attack. It also is a clearance move, preparing my bishop to get to c6, where it can eye the king. Okay, so I bring my bishop to the aforementioned c6 square. Okay, and now I'm trying to rip open the g file. He does not give it to me, which is good. But here there's just too much pressure, and the game is already pretty much really hard to defend at this point. I take the bishop. Again, this is another clearance move because I want to open up this diagonal, but the knight's in the way. So what's the best way to do that? I take, it's the most time-consuming way to do it, or not time-consuming, time-efficient. He throws an in-between move. I trade queens, no problem. And now I open up the diagonal. Again, all the tactics work in my favor because I have open diagonals to the king. He has a loose king. my pieces are better than his. And in this position, he played knight e4, and after I took, he had to resign. Why did he have to resign? Because, again, the tactics work in my favor. You might say, well, he has this move, but then after I have this move, check, taking on e3, on d3, I'm going to win the rook and the game. So again, be careful pushing pawns in front of your king and leaving open diagonals to your king. If your opponent does have any open diagonals to his king, try to use your bishops to take control of those diagonals. Extremely important. You'll win a lot of games just like that, as simple as it sounds. And again, this is if you're already sharp in tactics. If you're already sharp in tactics, you'll be able to appreciate positional chess, good positions in chess. My camera's falling, of course. So, yeah, for that reason, you really definitely should really focus on the positional nuances of the game and learn to appreciate how good those positions are and how they favor you tactically. Okay, in this position, my opponent gave me an open G file. Again, you don't want to open files to your king, okay? So after f4 was played, again, thinking that he has a spatial advantage and he's attacking my bishop, it really doesn't matter too much because I have an open G file. And my queen's over here on the open H file, or it's open for my queen because my queen's in front of my pawn. I just play rook g1, and then we have, again, the tactics work in my favor. I have a winning position. Again, it's because he forfeited the open G file to me. Basically, I just have to find the tactic here that works, and first I took the knight. I didn't have to, but I did, and then I played rook h6. I could have played rook h6 first, but I decided to take the knight first and then play rook h6. My opponent has to run. He can't do anything because he's getting checkmated. He can't take the rook because of that rook. And then I took the queen. Notice also another thing about this position. He has holes in his position, okay? So this is a huge hole in the position, and my knight can jump in here. So even if I didn't have his queen, I mean, jumping in there with my knight, this powerful knight, is very strong. It's a big positional hole in his game, and I have a knight prepared to jump in there. And he has no way of really refuting that. He has no light square bishop or knight that can chop this knight off. So even if I didn't have his queen there, we'll have a mating attack. This is another big positional element I have in the game. Anyway, folks, that's it. All right, guys, there you have it. Hope those examples really helped you out there. I've tried to be helpful as possible. And if you feel like I was helpful and you like the video, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out tremendously. You have no idea. It helps me make more videos like this so I can help you guys get better at chess as quick as possible. Now, anyway, get out there,